Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everquest Old School. And on this episode, I am playing my Cleric. He's level 9, and we are over in Crushbone at the trainer camp. Now, we don't have a full group. In fact, we don't really even have a tank to speak of, other than if you want to count the Necro that we have, who has a pet that we're kind of using for that purpose. But the taunt on the pet really leaves something to be desired. It's not the greatest taunt in the world. It can do just fine in a pinch, but preferably if you can get a tank, that's the way to go. We have a shaman with us, we have a wizard with us, and we have 2 clerics, one including myself. I have no weapon. That sucks, he has no weapon. Let me see if I have anything I can give him. Leather whip, so doing this. It's free, he should just take it. I'm not asking anything in return. And it'll give him something he can use. I'm not using it anyways. This leather whip, by the way, is what drops off of the I'll show you guys here. Is what drops off of the Taskmaster. He'll drop this and this earring right over here. This is who we were. Go ahead, guy, you can hit trade. He's having a little bit of issues tonight. He said he just got a new UI, so that might be why he's not hitting the trade button. Now these 2 both drop off the Taskmaster master. Pretty good items, not something, that you're really going to go out and buy, but if you happen to get it in the zone, you should be fine. Can't use it, that's fine, keep it. Not that big of a deal. It didn't cost me anything to get. And I can't use it on any of my characters, so let's see if I have anything he could use though. No, I don't have any weapons on me. Let's see, what can I do? I'll throw a couple of direct damage spells. They don't really require that much healing in this group. They're pretty good so far. We were actually over killing the Taskmaster earlier, but we lost a couple people, and we had a pretty bad wipe there. It was just a bad timing with somewhat of a bad pool. It wasn't really that bad of a pool. It was 2 Centurions and 1 Oracle. Oracles are pretty tough. They are definitely the first creature you want to kill, no matter what camp you're at. If you get any of those guys, kill the Oracle. They do tremendous amounts of damage with their spells. I think it's something on average from 20 to 30% of a tank's life per cast, and that's quite a bit of health. If it hits a normal person, I think it was doing like 50% damage to me at my level per cast that I took the aggro for. So definitely interrupt them if you're a caster that has stuns, if you're a tank that has bash, anything of that sort. Definitely go out of your way to stun them as much as possible. Let me see, can I pull any of those guys up here from down here? That one's green. What about over here? Now, normally the cleric needs to be sitting down meditating, but in this situation, I don't necessarily have to. I don't necessarily need the power all that much for now, anyways. These are all green. These are all too low for me. I'm not going to get any experience off of these. see if I can come over here and maybe snag a couple of these guys. And these guys should be decent level. Oh, that one's even. Might not be able to reach him though. Which way is he going? If he had went the other way, that would have been a nightmare. Okay, he cheated. Climbed up the wall somehow. Let's see if these guys are gonna pull it off. A couple of spells on him. With a Necro, a Wizard, and a Shaman here, I mean the DPS is just crazy. We're not having any trouble burning these guys down. Now I could heal myself, but we have another Cleric here, and I'm just going to let him do that job of the Cleric. And I guess I'll do the job of the Ruler since we don't really have one. It just sucks. I got to be very careful on what I pull up because I really can't take the hits. You can see this guy's kind of just standing there. He's not actually attacking us. What he's really doing is trying to run away. But the Necro probably cast his like Dooming Darkness on him. He's green. What about this guy? Oh, he's blue. I can grab him. Here we go. Incoming. This is unique. I think out of all the times I played my Cleric back in the day, got him all the way up to max level, I don't think I really ever pulled with him, except in raid zones when I got my little pet hammer. It was really good for that. But beyond that, I don't think I ever played the Puller. So this is kind of fun. I mean, I've done it with my Shadow Knight, I've done it with my Paladin and stuff like that, but it's just kind of weird to do it with this guy. Crap, I fell down. Took quite a bit of damage too, 59 points of damage from falling from that height. See, is there anybody down here I can snag while I'm here? Nope, even the entrance has been cleared. Guess we'll go ahead and give it a couple of minutes for something to spawn. How do I see if people are in Soul B? Do I type who all Soul B or something else? Who all Soul Dungeon B. That's kind of cool that you can see who's in a zone that you're not even in. Well, you can see if you should go there or not. Let's see, is this guy gonna survive? Invite, who knows, he may accept it. As the leader, they've been kind of all moving with me, and this is a good thing to watch where your healer's going. Usually if he's moving, you know, the whole group is going to move, but in this situation, as the tank or the puller, you know, not a good idea to move along going. There we go, another spawn. If we can get them as they go, we shouldn't have too big of a trouble, you know, taking on all these guys. The time you really have the most trouble is trying to break a camp. And breaking, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, means that in a camp there usually will be multiple creatures spawning at the same time. And when you walk into that, you'll have 3 or 4 or even 5 mobs that you have to kill, you know, all at once. So that's a lot more damage, a lot more healing you'll have to do because you'll be taking on multiple creatures. Whereas later on, the creatures are on a timer, and so if you kill a creature, it may be 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on if it's a mage or what that it takes to spawn again. But his timer doesn't begin until you kill him. So when you kill him, his timer spawns or resets back to, say, 5 minutes. You kill the next one in the group that you're killing, and now there's a gap between his timer and the one that you just killed. So if you can space it out for 20, 30, 40 seconds here and there, eventually the spawns will be spaced out enough that you'll get one at a time, and the other one won't spawn until you've had time to kill him. And the reason you know you'll have time to kill him is simply because the time it took before he spawns the next guy was the amount of time it took you to kill the guy last time. And so, depending on how fast you're killing, you can really space those spawns out. And so a camp that would have, say, maybe even 10 spawns at the same time, you could probably space those spawns out so that you get one guy spawning every minute, every 2 minutes, something along those lines. And so it's kind of constant kills, and it's not too overwhelming versus coming into that and trying to, like I said, break that camp and killing all 15 or 20 of those spawns at the exact same time. That would just be incredibly hard to do. And so you need a really good group to do that, and you need to be full power and be ready for it. Versus coming into a camp that's already broken, you can do that with a lesser group. You can do that. You can hold on to that as long as you stay on top of the spawns and you kill them as soon as they pop up, and you don't do it too quickly and get the spawns to be too close together, so you start getting multiples at the same time. But you can do that with a lesser group, maybe not the perfect one. If you don't even really have a decent tank or a tank at all in our situation, you're still able to. And there's the trainer right there. Where is he? So the trainer is red to me at level 9. I'm not quite sure what level he is. It has to be at least level 12, 13, maybe 14. But he's not too terribly difficult. He's not doing that much damage to us. I guess I'll save the last little bit for healing, just in case. Let the wizard really shine, use his direct damage spells. Got 3 healers technically with the shaman. I always forget the shaman because they have some amazing buffs. I do believe they get quite a few dots as well. Dots are damage over time spells, which basically means whereas a wizard may have like Ice Comet that does, say 1,500 points of damage when the spell goes off. A dot may do that same amount of damage, but it spreads it out, so it's kind of like a poison. It slowly does damage to you versus instant damage. Now, what are the benefits or downsides to either one? Well, the benefits to a direct damage one is that it's instant. It can kill them right away if that's all the life they have left. But it does get you a lot of aggro versus a damage over time spell, which will do very little damage up front, but over the course of 10, 15, 30 seconds, do quite a bit of damage. And therefore, the aggro is probably still around the same amount, but it's not all at one time. So you'll slowly be, dealing damage to them, and therefore the tank can kind of keep up with that. Which is why Necros tend to do a little bit more damage than Wizards, simply because Wizards have to really hold off on using a lot of their spells, even if they have the power and the time to do it, because if they do, they're going to still aggro and they're going to get killed or get hurt a lot, and it's just a headache to have the mob, bouncing back and forth like that. So a lot of the time they'll hold off, whereas Necros get usually just a whole bunch of damage over time spells, and so they can cast all those pretty quickly. Not, you can't just cast them one right after the other, or you are going to still aggro, but you can cast them all on the enemy eventually if you space it out enough, and eventually you're doing tremendous amounts of damage to that mob very quickly without stealing all that hate towards yourself. So it's something that you have to keep in mind depending on how you want your playstyle to be. You can pick the class that you want for that specific reason, but they each have their benefits. I mean, I love wizards. They have teleports as well. They're a great class. And Necros are a great class as well. They have Fatigue Death, and they have all those dots, and they have a pet. So it's just, you have to find the one that really suits you. Shamans also have pets at, I believe it's level 28 or 29. They get a little cub, a little wolf cub or something like that, that they can use to help them fight. And since they have the ability to heal, and they can buff up, they can use all of that on their pet. And the pet really isn't anywhere close to being as strong as like a Necro pet, but it is still pretty good. I mean, they're able to use that pet as a tank for the most part, especially once they buff it up. But as far as soloing goes, I mean, they're able to do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not as enjoyable as it would be if you were, say, a Necro or a Mage, or even a Druid. Bards can kind of do it too. They can do the soloing, and they can do, like quad kiting, which is basically having 4 or even more creatures that you're soloing at the same time. Because as I said before, some classes don't get a lot of direct damage spells. Clerics are one of them. We just don't get that many. Druids get a couple of damage over time spells. They also have a couple direct damage spells. But if they're using their dots, say they have like 3 dots in their arsenal of what they can use. Let's see, where's this guy? He's red. So say they have 3 dots in their arsenal which they're able to use, and it takes say 3 minutes for each one of them to run their full course of damage. Well, you cast those 3 dots, and now you're sitting there doing nothing. You have full power, your power's gone up to full again, and there's not a whole lot you can do. Well, you're just basically wasting your time a little bit, because you're not taking full advantage of what you're capable of doing. So what they're trying to do is they get that one guy, they bring another one in, put the same dots on him, because you can't stack the same dots on the same guy. You can't have, say, 15 versions of a disease dot that has the exact same name, is what I'm saying. You can have 15 different diseases on them, but you can't have the same dot over and over and over again. So you can't use that power and kill that creature faster. So what you'll do is you'll pull out more creatures, use each one of those dots on each one of the creatures, and just be killing 4 at the same time, because you have the power to do so. Certain classes can do this better than others, but most of the time when you're quad kiting, it requires you running around quite a bit in giant circles while the creature chases you. So if you have like Clarity on, this is the best way, because you don't have to stop and sit down for your power to go back up. I have about 15 minutes left. I'll go ahead and grab that wizard. Since we have a couple people leaving. And that give us a little bit more DPS. Not great. So now there's quite a few more people. It's 3 people out of 5, so it's all gonna stay. Yeah, it's alright, man. I don't mind that much. Some buffs on him. He feels welcome. Still need a tank, but yeah, it's really just all about how fast you really want experience. I mean, this right here is decent. I mean, if you're not in a rush, this is kind of relaxing. You kind of just chill and earn a little bit of experience every once in a while. Also earn a little bit of loot when the name happens to spawn. some people, they want that constant kill, they want that constant experience, they're in a hurry to level. But for the most part, I've never really tried to rush through these type of games, simply for the fact that when you do, you miss out on a lot. I mean, yeah, everybody wants to get to the in-game content because that's where a lot of the fun is. You know, that's where you can start going to a lot of these places, because there's going to be more people at the end game than there are going to be at any of the other steps along the way, other than maybe at the very, very beginning, starting new characters. Simply because as the game gets older and older, more and more people will reach that target, and therefore you're going to have a lot or a bigger pool of people to pick from and group with. But there's so much stuff along the way to do that if you rush through it, you know, you're just going to miss large portions, and it kind of sucks, because when you get to those higher levels and people are talking about different zones and they're saying, oh yeah, I remember going here and doing this and going over here, you won't have any of those stories because you pretty much rushed through it. You went through maybe 4 or 5, a handful of zones at max to get to your max level. You spent all your time in those and you never really explored, and now you're kind of wishing you had, because it just, you can't really go back in this game. There's no like mentoring down to another level. If you're too high for a certain zone, you can go through it and check it out, but it doesn't mean anything to you, because you don't get to see the way the paving works, because you're not pulling creatures. You know, you can just walk right through it. You don't have to worry about aggro or anything like that. You don't know how hard certain mobs are, because even if you take them on at higher levels just to kill it and see, you know, what it doesn't really show you the full extent of what that mob would do to a person at that level in a group and things of that sort. So it's definitely something you want to, you know, just take your time and try different zones. If you get into a group with a lot of friends and, you know, you mention another zone that you've been wanting to go to, a lot of the time people will be like, hey, let's go check out that zone. Let's just go. I mean, it's right there. It's like 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, maybe half an hour away, but they're still like, let's go check it out. Because a lot of the time they want to go see places like that too. And if there's just not enough people on in those zones when you go there, then even later on when you're in a zone really, really far away, people will realize that and be like, yeah, let's just go check it out. And this may be the only chance I get to see that zone in action at this level, and not later on, especially if this is like your second character that you're playing, and your first one maybe maxed out level, and now you're playing a second character, and you're like, okay, now I really, really want to go to those places that I kind of skipped over the first time around. So, you know, kind of be open to that, when other people, you know, start talking about other zones. Don't just be like, well, the experience here is really good, we're already here. Be open to go to other places, because that may be your only opportunity to go to these out of the way zones that are really just off in the weirdest spots. I know EverQuest 1 was kind of weird in that sense that you may have to go through some really, really high level zones to get to like a really, really low level zone, which is crazy, because unless you were playing the game for a long time, you wouldn't even know how to get through those high level zones safely, if you're even able to do it at all. So it's kind of, like I said, they throw you in the deep end. You got to figure things out on your own. But as you become more familiar with the game and more familiar with zones and how to pull the aggro radius of creatures and things of that sort, you are more likely to just go off exploring. Now, that can be very dangerous for certain classes. It's dangerous for all classes, but more dangerous, I should say, for certain classes. But it's dangerous for everybody, because you can get in over your head and then die, and then that's a long quartz retrieval back. I mean, that takes quite a bit of time to come back to some of these zones that are just, you know, especially if they're out of the way, you know, like a hole-in-the-wall zone that's just... Let's see if I can grab this guy. Pull some stuff up here for these guys. So you got to keep that in mind, you know, if you're getting ready to go to work and you want to go exploring, probably not the best time, because chances are you may die, and then you don't really want to have that hanging over your head all day while you're at work. Oh, I gotta get my corpse to remember where it was, is going to be clear, you know, things of that sort. So you know, try to do it when you have time to kill, that you're just kind of bored, you don't really feel like grouping, you don't really feel like killing, but you still want to play, you just want to go around and look around and see what's in different areas. that's the perfect time to do it. You know, people get into those moods. I know I do, where it's just like, oh, I'm tired of pooling. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of doing that. It's all the same that I've done for a long time, and I just need to take a break. But I enjoy the game so much. And that one's green. I could still have a belt on it. Have no chance. They just spawn and die. I mean, that's crazy. And I've been in this zone for, I don't know, I would say about 2 weeks now, guys. What do you think? About 2 weeks? And my faction hasn't maxed out yet. The Crushbone Orcs they couldn't possibly get any worse. The Brotherhood as well couldn't possibly get any worse. But as far as the Emerald Warriors and the Fate Arc Champions, those are still getting better. So is the Storm Guard. So you have to be in this zone for quite some time. As I said before many times on my videos, this game is not anywhere near as forgiving as some of the other games out there that came later, especially like Everquest and things of that sort. Your faction in this game makes a big difference because it's like it's based off of the old like D&D type style gameplay, and it just takes forever for you to get that skill, or not that skill, but that faction up. It's very easy to ruin it. Just a couple kills that you shouldn't have done will ruin your faction versus several hundred or even thousands of kills that you'll need to do to fix that faction. So definitely something to keep in mind. If you ever are in a new area, you're not familiar with it, and you start killing things that have faction hits, my suggestion would be to stop. Just don't do it. Switch to another target, go to somebody else. You just do not want to risk messing up your faction if you're unfamiliar. Now, you can always ask the channel, you know, that you're in, whether it's the zone, whether it's your guild, group, whoever. You can ask if anybody's familiar with that faction. Is it important? What does it go to? Just because it's not important to them doesn't mean it won't be important to you. If you're doing like your epics and stuff like that, certain races, certain characters need faction and certain things more than other people do. So that's something to be aware of. I would suggest that if you get to around level 25, level 30, and you really like your character and you can see yourself getting to max level one day, to just check out the epic requirements for your quest. Now, you're going to see it and you're going to be like, oh, that's too much. I can't believe that's a quest. Do not get overwhelmed. It is extremely long and there's a lot of parts to it. And when you start looking at all the names that you have to kill and how long they take before each one spawns, and that they don't even always drop the item you're looking for, and some of these names you're in groups for, you just be like, oh, I'm never going to do that. But it's nice to know what you need, and especially if you can keep an eye out for those names, because a lot of the time in this one, you didn't have to do the quest in order. Like, you could do 90% of the quest without ever even starting it. All you had to do is go get the items. And so if you know you need that item, you could get very lucky. When I was doing mine, I remember going through some zones, and as I was just running through the zone, somebody would be shouting out, hey, you know, this item's there, does anybody need it? They didn't always say, does a cleric need it? You know, they just know that people need it. They don't know what class necessarily uses it. But because I was aware that that was a character I needed, or not a character, an item that I needed, I went ahead and picked it up. At that time, I never thought I would ever complete the epic. I thought that would just be insane, because there was a few pieces on that thing that I was like, I could probably do the rest alone, you know, just it would take me forever, and then some to be able to do it, but the rest of it was, you know, soloable. But there was a few pieces that you needed groups, and I'm like, when am I ever going to have a group willing to camp a named creature that doesn't drop anything worth of value other than the one little piece that I'm looking for my epic? that doesn't always drop. So we're going to be sitting there, and it's a 12-hour spawn. We're going to kill it, and it doesn't even always drop the item that I want. And they're just sitting there for what reason? You know, because they're willing to help me out. And, you know, it just blew my mind that later on I got into guilds, and that's exactly what they were willing to do. They were willing to wait for it to spawn. They'd put it on a timer, and they would log on just to help me out. They weren't asking that I help them out in return. They were just saying they were willing to help me out, and that's pretty cool. I never thought that would even be a possibility, but you'd be surprised in this game. People were very, you know, giving with not just items, but their time and their effort, because they know it means a lot to you to get your epic, especially for a cleric. That's huge. You have it's the water sprinkler that allows you to do a 96% res for free, no mana, no nothing. You just cast it. Of course, it takes a few seconds to cast. I think it's a little bit longer than the normal res, but who cares compared to the amount of power you save. So the thing to remember on that one is, for the most part, not that big of a deal. You're probably thinking, oh, I can just use my power. How is that a big deal? Well, on raids, without that sprinkler, it's just so slow, because when everybody wipes, which is bound to happen in raids, it's going to be one of those things that you have to get used to, because you may be going to a place that you're very familiar with, and then there won't be as many wipes. But if you're going to a place that is incredibly hard, you don't really have all the right classes, when you're trying to get people outfitted into a zone, you're going to have a lot of wipes. And when it happens, the clerics have to res everybody. And when they... Sorry about that, hold on a second, guys. I apologize, but when that happens, you have to spend a lot of power, and I think it's something like 30% power for each res around that level, around level 50 or whatever. So you can see you'd be able to do a few reses, and then you literally would have to stop and then med back up. Whereas if you had just one cleric with the sprinkler, he could res everybody in, say, you know, 5 minutes. Everybody's done with, everybody's res, got their experience back, is getting ready to buff up, heal up, get ready to go in and do another attempt at whatever you guys are trying to do. So for that one purpose alone, just for raids alone, completely and totally makes let's see what this is. Completely and totally makes that sprinkler worth doing. And a lot of your guild will, if they don't even have one cleric with it, will go extremely out of their way to make sure they get one with it, so they can reduce that downtime, you know, to an acceptable level. I mean, everything in this game is longer than you'll probably find in pretty much any other game that you ever played. But Warrior, Paladin, Ranger, Shadow Knight, Bard, and Rogue. AC is 3. Let's see, what am I wearing? So that's actually better than what I'm wearing, so I'll pick that up. Unless somebody else already did. There it is. I can't even wear it. I guess I should pay attention to that more often. Elf, High Elf, Dwarf, Human, Barbarian, Druidian, Elf, High Elf, Warrior, Paladin, Ranger, Shadow Knight, Bard, Rogue. So not no Cleric in that, but I do have a Paladin, and I'll just give it to him so he can use it. Let me see if anybody's down here I can pull. These guys over here seem to be a little low. Not really getting any experience for them, but again, I only pull them mainly for the loot, or the chance at the loot. Green, green, all green. Alright, we got 3 incoming. See, you got a 6 rogue, a 7 rogue, 9 necro, 7 enchanter, all looking for a group. All it would take is for one person to be like, hey, let's put a group together. And then you got a somewhat decent group right there. You don't have a healer, but you do have a necro who can pretty much heal himself. You have an enchanter who can mez. I mean, you have a pretty decent group there. You just have to be willing to put one together and accept the fact that you're not going to be able to go into all the different spots that you may want to go to, but you can usually find something easy enough for everybody to still get experience, and at the same time, wait and bide your time until you can get the right classes. Because with those people, with those classes right there, you pretty much have all the secondary characters you need. Now all you need is a healer and a tank, and then you're ready to go. So the moment a paladin or, a paladin would be perfect because he can heal himself as well as tank for you. So, it may just be one person you're looking for. Whereas if you don't pick these people up right now or soon, they may just log off. They may switch to another character. They may go to another zone. They may just decide to come back later in the day when it's a little bit more busy. There's more groups to snatch them up quicker. So, you got to keep that in mind, that they're not just going to be there always. It's not like a computer, that's just sitting there waiting and it's always on for you. There is a finite, time scale that you have to get this done. Otherwise, you're just going to lose them. So we're getting repop and an extra couple. It's not too bad. I think we're going to be able to handle it. Probably should net up here pretty soon. It's not always alpha rotation or, any kind of rotation. That's preferably the method that a lot of people enjoy, but somebody has to be willing to sit there and put a list together and then call it out, keep track of it and all that other stuff. And if you get a lot of higher level people playing a lower level character, this stuff doesn't really mean that whole much to them. I mean, it's just a lot of them will pass on the belts and like, you guys use it, So not necessarily always the default, but in my opinion, it's a great way to do it. But just ask when you join a group. There's a few things you should ask when you join a group. First, class check, which is just your way of saying, could everybody tell me what class you are, so that I know, especially if you're like the healer, you want to know who's the tank, who's the enchanters, who's doing this, who's doing that, and just finding out their class is enough. Probably stole it from that one guy. I feel kind of bad about that, but I've been pulling these for a while now, so. Well, where are they? There we go. Let's see, what level are these? Even and green. Well, they're about to head out, so I guess we're going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. If you like these videos, please hit the like button, subscribe. They definitely help my channel evolve and allow me to produce more videos for you guys on YouTube. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.